Hey guys, Churchy here. So I love a good post-apocalyptic setting, and I really like those RPGs that make you think about the adventures you've had and make you kind of want to plan new adventures and new characters. And I also like building up a character over time and just seeing them become more powerful as you unlock more skills and get better equipment and weapons and armor and stuff. And there's a game I've been playing a lot recently that has kind of scratched a lot of those itches, and that game is, of course, Fallout London. So in this video, I want to talk about Fallout London, and I want to talk about the positives I've had, and then a couple of negatives, which has mostly just been some bugs and glitches and whatnot. And then I'll talk about some mods that I've used to fix some of those issues, those bugs and glitches and engine issues and stuff. So starting with the positive, I feel like this is a game where you can definitely feel that a lot of passion has gone into this. And this is a mod project for Fallout 4, but it's advertised as a DLC on their website, on the Fallout London website, but I would honestly just say that it's an entirely new game. The map is really big, really dense, and I would say well designed and well laid out in the world space. There's a lot of engaging locations that are quite fun to explore and travel through, and there's a lot of like narrow streets and just old pubs and a lot of interesting locations. And part of that has been interesting too, because initially I was going to be like a sniper sort of type, and I still sort of am sometimes, but I find that because there's a lot of more narrow alleyways and stuff, I find myself fighting with like handguns and stuff a lot more than I originally planned to. So that's been quite interesting, the way the terrain, or in this case, the cityscape, has kind of defined the way I've been playing. That's been pretty cool. Along with those interesting locations, there are, of course, interesting and unique locations that are London landmarks, like Tower Bridge, stuff like that. The Eye. There's a bunch of others, but that's definitely been something that's pretty cool. Just wandering around and being like, "Ooh, I know what that is. I've seen that before on movies and stuff." I've never actually been to London, but yeah, definitely cool. There's also some fun sort of English references to like just certain English franchises and stuff, and little Easter eggs and things. A good one of those has been the Doctor Who references, as there's been a couple of times where I've found like the police boxes that are a TARDIS, and there's like a thing to find them all. I think, I don't know if something fun and special happens, but there's been a couple of times where, well, there's just been fun setups. One of those was there was a police box that was like the TARDIS, but then there was a preservation shelter that looked kind of like a Dalek, and it had a plunger sticking out of it, so it was basically a mock Dalek. That was pretty good. I also found a Sweeney Todd reference, which was pretty funny, because there was just, on this random ruined street, there was just this barber and a pie shop, and you know, NPCs that were, yeah, basically it was Sweeney Todd. But that was kind of funny too. There's been a lot of interesting and fun faction designs, just with the bigger factions and the smaller factions. There's quite a few different factions as well, all kind of different gangs and stuff, and raider factions and things as well. So some of the bigger ones have been like, which honestly I haven't actually seen too much of, because I've only just kind of gotten to one of the bigger areas, which was Westminster, which is all still like posh and interesting, which I'll talk about a bit later. But that has been kind of fun, because I've already encountered a lot of stuff, but I feel like there's still more things to see, which is like some of the bigger ones. Like I think there's one called Camelot, which is like ye old knights and stuff, and then there's the Gentry, which I've just sort of started seeing, which is basically just like upper class people, pretty much. And then I think there's like the something column, the fifth column or sixth column or something. I can't remember what it was, but I think they're kind of wanting a revolution. And I think they might be like slightly bad in some ways. I don't know. I can't quite remember because I haven't seen much of these factions yet. But the smaller factions I've seen quite a bit of. That's the Vagabonds, which are kind of like Peaky Blinders almost. Then there's the Syndicate, which is kind of like mobsters basically. And then there's been the Tommies, which are like kind of World War, very like ye old soldier types kind of thing. And that's kind of cool. Then there's been some interesting raider factions like the Jack Tars that are very like maritime museum types, and they run around with muskets and stuff. There's the Hooligans, which are just like the most typical basic raider, and they're pretty much just like football fans. Then there's the Beef Eaters, which are basically like cannibals, but I think the joke is that it's like, I think it was like the Royal Guard or something. They're all wearing like uniforms and stuff, and it's pretty funny. And then there's like some other ones, just other random things as well, and other little groups that you run into. I ran into, I think they were called the Reclaimers or something. They were just some random like scavenger types. And then there are just like traditional scavengers running around and stuff. So there's a lot of different NPC groups to run into. And I think there was the Roundels was another group that I found in like another little borough of the city, which was really cool because they were kind of had their own big quest line and stuff, which I was mucking around with, which I will talk a little bit about as well eventually. But yes, along with all of that, there's also just some fun, unique enemy designs and stuff, which have been things like a naval mine on legs, which was running around, and then that basically runs at you and blows up. Pretty good. There's post boxes that will basically turn into killer robots. Just little things like that have been kind of fun, and there's been a couple of little unique enemies and stuff like that along the way. It's been a fairly interesting story so far, the main story. I won't really talk about it much. I don't want to give too many spoilers or anything, and so that's why I'll probably kind of just steer clear of this mostly. But I will just say there seems to be stuff about, like cloning and genetic engineering and stuff, and you have to go and explore some labs and like try and find out who you are, because at the start of the game you wake up in a vat in a lab and you don't know who you are or what's going on. But that's that's the gist of it. So another thing with the game is that I would say it has a fairly ambitious scale and scope for a mod project. And as I mentioned earlier, it really is like an entirely new game. And they do some interesting things here and there where they try and make things a little bit more interesting, have like a cool little scene or something. Like, for example, there's a bit where you're on a boat and you get to like just shoot from the back of the boat, and it kind of just goes through some rubble and stuff, and just little touches like that they're quite ambitious. Tons of quest lines. Oh yeah, another faction that I should have mentioned is the Thames folk. They're like another brand of mutants, basically, of like not quite ghouls or anything, but they're basically like sludge suckers is another thing I think they get called, because they just like love the water of the Thames, and they drink all this like radioactive water and stuff. But they're quite interesting, and again, they've got like their town, basically Thames Haven, and there's like a quest line, well, multiple quest lines and stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of different groups to engage with and do quest lines. The Vagabonds as well have like a nice big old quest line. So I was doing some stuff for the Tommies as well. Yeah, and I did some stuff for the Roundels, which was another quest line. And on top of all that as well, there's just been a nice variety of like weapons and armor and clothing, and it's all been very it's all fit the game and the theme and everything very well, and it really does feel like you're just like wandering around a ruined London doing Fallout stuff. It's really quite good. Another interesting thing is Westminster, which is the sort of where the Gentry are based out of, basically. What's been really cool is you spend all this time in the game roaming around all these ruined kind of mucky, dirty streets and everything. And then when you do finally get to Westminster, it's actually pretty clean and mostly civilized to a point, and it's basically much more like pre-war, and it makes a really interesting contrast with the wasteland that you've kind of seen up to that point. So that I thought was quite cool and did leave a little bit of an impression when I first went there. There have been some issues that I've had along the way, bugs, glitches, and a bunch of engine clunkiness. The engine clunkiness stuff, not really the mod maker's fault. It's just the engine that Fallout is built on. It's had some issues, but yeah, they're nothing too major, and I've fixed most of them, and I will talk about the mods that I've found to fix them. But yes, it's it's worth talking about. So occasionally there were times where I would not be able to fire my weapon after swapping from another weapon. I'm pretty sure what was causing this is it would be when I'd swap from the musket rifle that I was using, and that had a long reload time. And I'm pretty sure what was happening is if I was currently reloading that weapon and I swapped to another weapon, then I wouldn't be able to fire that weapon until the musket reload had finished, even though I was no longer using the musket. Just some general engine bugginess and glitchiness that you see in any creation engine game, be it Skyrim, Starfield, Fallout, or a Fallout mod project. Just some weird like characters bouncing around and doing weird things, etc. Just a bunch of the usual kind of things. There was also some voice line overlap due to some high frame rate. I did fix that with a mod. I'll talk about the mod separately in a minute. There was also some really long load times. Again, I fixed that with a mod. There was also a fair few crashes I was getting at different times while playing. And then there was a combination of mods and things that I did that seemed to have fixed all of that. But it was sort of, even then, I would still have the occasional crash, which I think was more due to like certain assets or things being a bit funky from the mod. So hopefully some of that will be patched. There was also another mod related one, which was the old Naval College. Which was just a random place I was exploring, fighting some Jack Tars. There was a bugged door, so I entered a building and I couldn't get back out. And then I had to use the TCL, which is toggles the clipping. I had to use the TCL command to get past an asset and then actually click on the exit door. There was also a bugged vagabond quest that was direct action, I think it was called. I had to disable the guy that was trying to give a speech, which was Gaunt, and then I had to sit in a chair so he didn't keep trying to sit in it and not say anything. And then finally, when I'd done that, I re-enabled him, and then he said his speech and it worked and progressed the quest. Then there was another bugged quest, which was for the Roundels, which was the quest Lost and Won. I actually gave up on this quest because it was bugged as fuck. It was really bad. There was everything before that in the Roundels had been working, and it was a fun quest line, and I was enjoying it all. But then this quest, there was a lot of stuff broken, and it just kept not working. And then I tried a couple of things, and to actually get it to work, there was a couple of walkthroughs online, but it was basically it would have been a matter of like teleporting NPCs and setting different quest stages and doing a lot of stuff with the console, which completely removes the point of even playing the quest, because at that point you're just running through the motions of like manually entering stuff into the console to get it to do its stuff rather than experiencing the quest. So I just moved on from that one, and maybe I'll play it again some other time in a later patch once it's all fixed. The crash that happened related to the mod was when I was approaching... There's a crash site in Westminster as part of the main quest line, and that was causing a crash every time I walked near it. It also caused a crash on loading my game when I'd made a save nearby. Thankfully, I had a lot of backup saves, so that was fine. But yes, there's definitely some issues and crashes and bugs and all of that. The mods that I've used to fix a lot of things, and I'll leave links to these in the description. And also I'll talk about a couple other fixes that weren't mods that I did, but yeah, all the mods I'll leave a link in the description. But basically, one of them was called Load Accelerator. That one helped massively. When I first started playing, the load times were immense. They were like, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes at one point, I'm pretty sure. But once I got this, it was like 10 to 30 seconds, let's say, at most. Buff Out was another one that I got. That fixed a lot of crashes, it seemed, for me. The high FPS physics fix, that was another really good one because it helped fix the voice overlap. The other thing I did in combination with that, I limited the frame rate to 100, and that kind of seemed to be the last puzzle piece to kind of stop crashing nearly entirely. That frame rate limit I just did in the NVIDIA control panel. But yeah, that was good. Those combinations of those two were pretty good because the voice line overlap was getting pretty annoying at that point. That's basically because what happens in the creation engine is if your frame rate's too high, certain physics things and timing things just don't work properly anymore, and they get out of sync and do all sorts of weird crap. In this case, it was basically like voice lines were finishing but overlapping each other before the voice line had actually finished. So characters were saying multiple things at once. Yeah, so that was kind of all the fix type things I did. And then a couple of personal ones that I got just for my own preference was Immersive HUD. Immersive HUD is just great for Fallout 4 or for Fallout London. It's just, I love that mod because I love having a HUD with not much on it at all, or like when you don't need it, it's not on your HUD. So this just hides like all your health and everything else. So you're literally just seeing the game and the world and really getting to immerse yourself in it. I absolutely love that mod. And the other one I got was Crafting Workbench Redux because I'm playing a very uncharismatic character, and by default you have to have like 5 or 6 charisma and 2 points in local leader to be able to build the workbenches. I've always found that to be silly, even in Fallout 4. So this mod just removes that requirement. So that is basically my thoughts and experiences of Fallout London. It's a fantastic mod project, and I really do think that it deserves the title of just being its own game, because that's what it is. It's an entirely new world space. The world space is massive. I think it's as big as like the base game of Fallout 4 and Far Harbor combined, basically. Yeah, it's full of quests and factions and interesting locations, and it's really easy to immerse yourself in and explore and just get lost in it, and I love that. And yeah, I'm going to play a hell of a lot more of it too. So, and I've already been thinking about other characters and stuff I want to make and play around with in the game, so that's always a great sign. But yeah, and that's even with the issues and stuff I talked about, like the issues that I had to solve and everything. Frustrating at times, but well and truly worth figuring it all out to continue to be able to play the game and get it in a really solid state. The other one thing I would mention is that the game definitely reminds me of Fallout New Vegas at times, and that is probably my favorite Fallout experience. I also really like Fallout 3, and I do quite enjoy Fallout 4. Those are for different reasons. Fallout 3, I love some of the environment stuff. Fallout 4, I love some of the upgrades to the gunplay and whatnot, which obviously translate over to Fallout London. But yeah, Fallout New Vegas just had some great like storytelling and character stuff, and I feel like Fallout London does some of that pretty well, and then in its environment and everything is just fantastic. And yeah, can't wait to get back in and play some more. But that is it for this video. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think about Fallout London down in the comments. Have a good day or night, whichever it may be, and I will see you in the next video.